On Real Estate for Real Life podcasts, we sit down with standout business leaders to unpack what's actually working.
How they scale, lead teams, win clients, and build businesses that last. We're your hosts. I'm Courtney Gouchman.
And I'm Ryan Wilson. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you for joining us on Real Estate for Real Life. I'm Courtney Gouchman, and today we decided to trade in Ryan Wilson for a new co-host. I'm here with Ashley Kinney. She's a realtor at Wilson Group. And we have an amazing guest with us as well, Nicole Torres, who's a partner at David Camiel Law Firm. And we're excited to have you.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. So we'll dive right in. We wanted Nicole to come on this podcast because at just 35 years old, 6 years into being in real estate law, you became one of the only partners at your firm. And we love seeing anyone succeed, but especially a female succeed in business like that. And we want to hear a little bit more about how that happened, how you fast-tracked your career and were able to hit that milestone so quickly.
Yeah, I was actually 34, which is, I know. It was January of last year. I turned 35 in June. And I've had a lot of people say that to me. You've only been in the industry, 5 years at the time, and now it's 6 years. This was really, really fast. It's really the way that I operate. I am not the type of person to just do something halfway or, to just do something just to say that I'm doing it. And when I started working for my now partner, David, when he hired me, I was just a fresh associate. I had only known about real estate law because I had bought and sold homes with my now husband, and we had used my partner, David. So when I reached out to him, I said, hey, I'm just looking to network. You seem to really love what you do. This seems to be a really good area of the law to want to practice. He took me on as an associate and said, listen, I'll teach you everything, that you will want to know and need to know to be in this industry. And I said, all right, and I'm going to help you run it. And I think he didn't really take me very seriously at first. He's like, okay, we'll see about that kid. We have a bigger age gap between the two of us. And I think, there is it's kind of a rumor, but it's a bit true, I think, that people, in our age group and a little bit younger don't like to work hard. I don't think that's true. Clearly, I don't act that way. But I think when I said to him, I'm going to help you run this company, he was like, yeah, okay, we'll see what you made of. And yeah, here I was 5 years later. And, with him getting a little bit older, I think he really saw me as kind of his succession plan. And I tried to really show him through consistency and hard work. I'm not just here to show up every day. I'm here to do a really, really good job. I put in the hours, I put in the time. But I think the biggest thing for me has just constantly been learning. I never approached a situation like I know everything there is to know about this. Once I learned about it a little bit, I've always tried to keep my ears open to everything. But for me, I think hard work is just the key. You can teach anyone to do anything in any industry, but if the person doesn't have the foundation to want to work hard, they're only going to go so far.
Right. I couldn't agree with you more. I think ultimately that drive and that work ethic is going to supersede talent any day. We kind of say that, like consistency will always get you further. And that hard work and that effort and energy that you're putting in. But also there's got to be talent, right? Like in 5 years to be able to excel that quickly.
Yes.
It's incredibly impressive. But
Thank
I
you.
also love that you set your eyes on that prize right off the bat.
I did. It's kind of my MO with everything. Like when I played sports, through college, I played softball and I was a 3-year captain. Like I said, I don't just do something. I always excel to be a leader. And I don't know, maybe I just like to be in charge. I really, really enjoy leading. I very much enjoy working really hard and reaping the benefits of working hard. But I also really enjoy uplifting other people around me. So it's not as though, I had this race to the top and I was trying to leave everybody in the dust. I very much, especially in our industry on the attorney side, it's very male dominant still. So I very much, still to this day, I want to continue to work as hard as I can to be as successful as I can, but to bring up especially these younger female associates with me, along the way. And I was actually talking to one of my associates this morning, and I said, I think there's this misconception, especially for the older generation of females that are in the business world, that the pie is only so big. And if you're getting a piece of the pie, I'm getting less of the pie. And we're really trying to turn the table, I think. Women like us, we're saying, no, the pie just gets bigger, right? We can just expand on that. And doing things where we're networking, whether it's with women like yourselves that are successful or even other attorneys in the industry, we're showing, no, we can all be successful here and lift each other up. Because if you're holding down another person, you're going to hold yourself down too.
100%.
Absolutely. It's also kind of what you're talking about is similar to what we say on our team, right? There's market share, right?
Yes.
So there's strength in everyone on your team growing and
Yes.
excelling together.
Yes.
Because ultimately, you also mentioned learning, right? You're learning from one another. And beyond the learning aspect of learning from each other and through each other's experiences and the different transactions you're doing together, you're also helping your business grow. So for us, we're not competitors. There's plenty for everyone, right? So like you said, there's enough pieces of the pie to go around, right? But it's also the more of that pie that your company as a whole can get,
Exactly.
the bigger your company can grow.
Exactly. And, in my opinion, if one of my associates really hits it off with a real estate agent, because obviously that's how, we bring in business on the real estate attorney side is to make friends with agents. You get to know them, earn their business and earn their trust. If one of my associates starts doing that with an agent, even an agent I used to do business with, that's fantastic. I'm not everybody's cup of tea, and that's completely fine, right? So maybe this agent and that attorney just happen to gel better. I think that's fantastic and that's great. And I also think it gives me the opportunity to then create new contacts that I otherwise would not have been able to touch base with.
Exactly.
When you started at DC Law, were any of the other attorneys put off by your drive, or was everyone very accepting of that, especially as a younger female coming in?
Yeah, I think it was one of those things where I was definitely vocal about it with my now partner. I'm gonna help you do this, and I am going to be a leader in this firm with you. I outside of saying that to him, I never tried to say it in a way that talked down to the other associates. I think there's a way to set goals for yourself without making others around you that are in a similar position feel belittled by that. So I always tried to stay very respectful of that. At the same time, I think they can tell I'm a no BS person, and I'm not going to not take a seat at the table just because it might make someone else feel uncomfortable. I know that I've earned what I have, and I've put in the time and I've put in the hours. And I think there's a lot to be said when you're the person. It's almost like dating, right? So you start dating someone in the first couple of months, they're on their best behavior and they treat you so well and they answer every text. And then over time, you really get to see who that person is. And does that stuff continue, or does it kind of fall by the wayside because the consistency goes away? And for me, I feel like I've set that same consistency from my first day at the firm. I show up early. I'm fully invested the time that I'm there. If I have to stay late, I will stay as late as I have to. And in our industry, we have to answer the phone at nighttime, on the weekends, on a Sunday. What's a holiday? What's a vacation? We don't have one. So for me, that's just kind of the tone that I've always tried to set. And now having younger associates, I think it shows them, hey, these things are possible. You just have to work really hard for them for a really long time. It's not about being on your best behavior for those first couple of months. It's consistency over time and building relationships and building trust. So I don't think that the other associates, at the time where I started, we were also a smaller firm. I think we only had 4 associates, or now up to 9. There's 9 total attorneys at the firm. So I think we were just in a bit of a different position. And now, obviously my partner and I, we're leading the firm. A lot of the other attorneys are bringing in business now too, which is great. It's not just David bringing in business or myself bringing in business. We're trying to elevate everybody.
That's amazing. And that's how you really, truly can grow your brand, grow your company, and actually start to expand, which I know you have some plans about that, which I'd love to hear a little more about that at some point too.
Yes.
But I do think, going back to Ashley's question and kind of did that make it an interesting dynamic, right, with your peers that you were so driven and you were so hungry? But one thing you said at the very beginning is that you've been learning for all these years too, right? And I do think that if you come into anything, right, so any industry that you're in with the mindset of you're hungry, you're driven, you're consistent. So you show up every single day and you're always, giving the same level of energy, service, and your expectation is you're exceeding expectations, right? Ultimately, when you also have the mindset of being open to learning, you're really truly taking things in and actually being a bigger and better part of the firm, right? Because you're not a know-it-all. And ultimately, it's like you're creating an environment for people to also want to learn, right?
Yes.
So that leadership standard that you set is probably the trickle-down effect with now the 9 other attorneys in your firm. They're all probably coming in with a similar mentality, hopefully, right? Hopefully they're
Exactly.
emulating the things that you show up and
Yes.
want to lead with.
And we've always tried to have a very high standard in terms of obviously the legal services that we provide. We are attorneys, we want to provide great legal services. And when I say I'm always learning and always trying to learn and trying to grow, I don't just mean on the legal side, because as you all know, we face things that are a once in a lifetime. There's a weird legal nuance that happens in our world that people will say, oh my gosh, I've never seen this before. This has never happened. You're always learning in that regard. But from a personal standpoint, too, I feel like I'm always learning about people and what makes people tick and how to motivate certain people and how to talk to certain people. I mean, we get to see people that we work with just from the client side that are having they're in the best years of their life, or they're having the best day of their life. They just got married. They just had a baby. They're moving into a new house. And then I have a client whose daughter just passed away at the age of 30 because she was ill. I mean, you really have to know how to see people and meet them where they're at and speak to people. That is definitely something that takes, the emotional intelligence piece, that's just definitely something that takes a lot of time. And you can't teach that to someone in a day. So for me, when I'm trying to mentor these younger associates, it's not just on real estate law, because again, I can teach them that. It's really, hey, when you sent out this email to that client, make sure you're putting yourself in their shoes and you're saying, am I going to panic them, when I send this out? Or how am I, approaching this person? Or even when it comes to building their businesses within our own firm, you cannot take someone out to a coffee one time and they're going to entrust you with all of their business. It takes a really long time. So I try to approach people as, I want to get to know you as a person. I mean, when I met Ashley, we were saying earlier, I literally met her in the rain. We were holding signs in the center of Shrewsbury, freezing. And her sister introduced me to her and she said, oh, she's a real estate agent. And I said, oh, I'm a real estate attorney. But it wasn't like, now you're going to work with me and that's it. It takes time. You have to earn someone's trust and respect. And now Ashley and I we talk almost every day.
I literally told her I loved her after we hung out the other day. And I was like, I think we're getting serious.
Yes, it was a great date. It was a really great date. But those are the types of things that, at our firm, we really try to set the bar for. It's not just the legal side of things. It's really treating clients with respect, treating our partners, whether it's a loan officer or an agent, always trying to understand where they're coming from, explaining things to people in a way that they're comfortable with and that they can understand.
Yeah. It's such a high stress moment in time, even though it's like super exciting. Someone's buying their first house or, whatever the scenario is. Some people are going through nasty divorces. And like you said, like you're always trying to put yourself in their shoes and just remain like a voice of calm and understanding from their perspective. Mm-hmm. And like I feel like every transaction I learn something new, whether it's from a real estate side or if it's like the client that I'm working with.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Totally.
understanding people, understanding tact. It is one of the top 3 most stressful experiences a human being goes through.
Absolutely.
I think they say it's death, divorce, and buying or selling a home, right?
Yeah.
So we get to be in that field, in that industry. And I think that that's one of the nuances that makes this industry so difficult to excel at, right? Because you can't just be a good salesperson or you can't just be a good attorney. You can't just be good at building relationships, right? You have to have so many
You have to be a good therapist.
attributes. Yes.
Psychology would probably be helpful here.
Yes.
Exactly. But the attributes that you have to have, it's also like knowing how to deliver messages. Like for you especially, you're delivering things that like from the law side of things can come across more concerning, scarier,
intimidating.
Right? Yeah, more
Exactly.
intense. And
Exactly.
also their money is always on the line when you commit to play, right?
Exactly.
So in the beginning, we get to show them houses. That's a little more fun. We're shopping, right?
Yep.
Like a lot of times it's just window shopping for a little while, literally. And then from your end of it, it's once you come into play, there's deposits being put down. There's massive amounts of paperwork being signed, purchase and sales going on, like all these details of things that it's real.
Yes.
And at that point, when shit gets real,
Yes.
right? Like we start to see a different side of people.
Yes.
The clients can change a little bit. The agents can start to have different dynamics due to the clients getting more stressed, right? So it's like what you're talking about here is in the 5 years that you grew your business, right? You were able to also catapult that emotional intelligence too.
Right.
Right. And now you're even teaching it to the other
Right.
attorneys in your firm,
Right.
which is another huge skill set too. Right.
that's hard.
So how did you get to be perfect? Is what I'm really wondering.
You can ask my husband. No, I think I've always tried to see things from other people's perspective. I think I've always, since the time I could talk, I've been like a 50-year-old stuck in a younger person's body. I've always been an old soul. It's funny, I'm going to be 36 this year, and I said to my husband, I feel like I'm almost at the age I was born at. I was meant to be. I've always been, 40 or 50, and I'm almost there. Emotionally, I'm almost, or physically, I'm almost caught up with where I am emotionally. And for me, maybe I'm just empathetic. I've always tried to just meet people where they're at. I don't like being made to feel stupid. I don't like being made to feel like someone's talking down to me or trying to talk over my head. I don't like to make people feel that way. I also like to like the people that I work with and like the people that I'm around and that I surround myself with. I'm a very big believer that you are who you surround yourself with. And I don't surround myself with negative people. My husband is one of the most, if not the most positive person I have ever met. And I definitely could not have made partner without him because that takes a team, especially when you have children and there's a lot of dynamics going on. But I feel like I've just always been an old soul in that way. I've always seen the world from other people's perspective. And I think that is the biggest key to being successful. For me, I do feel like it's in any industry. If you can put yourself in the person across from you's shoes, you can anticipate what they're going to say, what they're going to need, or how to just meet them where they're at.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that about your husband and kind of the village it takes, essentially, right? People talk about that all the time when it comes to raising children and being a parent. However, there is this huge key piece of where you're at in your career. A lot of times your success is going to be based on where you're at in your life too, right? A lot of times, like we know sacrifice has to be made, but if you're with a really good partner or you're just in a really healthy mental state, right? You are so much more likely to be able to hit all the goals you have for yourself, right? So for us on our team, we're constantly focusing on personal goals, right? Every single week in our sales meeting, we don't just sit there and talk about sales and talk about like status in work. We also talk about, did you accomplish the things you wanted to in your personal life, whether it's workout goals or whether it's, I usually do a goal to have like a solo date with one of my kids, or sometimes it's to slowly redecorate my house. It's about also putting those priorities first too. Making sure that you're actually giving time to the people that around you that are going to make a massive impact in your happiness and your bigger goal, right? Like your big career milestones. So I love that. I love hearing that your husband was a huge part of it.
Yes. He has been, he's my I could like cry thinking about it. He's been obviously my best friend, biggest supporter. And it's always been, he's at a different point in his career than me. He's 14 years older than me, very, very well established in his career. So he has the benefit of being able to look kind of in the rear view and say, hey, I remember how hard I had to hustle at the beginning. You do whatever you have to do. Like if it's, oh, honey, I got 4 work dinners this week, or I've got 6 coffees, or you got to take the kids here, you've got to do this. We're constantly like, we're a team and we're constantly just shifting. Who's going to do this? Who's going to do that? But a very emotionally supportive. Like you do whatever you have to do to succeed. He believes in me in the sense that he knows I'm not going to take that time that is away from my family, and I'm not going to go and half-ass something. I'm not going to squander that. That's also key. Doing a million networking events or doing a million coffee dates with people does not mean a single thing if you are going into it 1 foot in the door and 1 foot out the door. You're going into it with your phone on the table and you're thinking about where you have to be. Really going into it, if you're taking time away from your family, right, to do something to help you with work, you have to be there and 100% present. And people will say to me, how do you balance it all? Because I do a lot, obviously, at work. I do a lot with my kids. I'm involved in my town. I say when I'm doing something for work, I try to be 100% present at work. When I'm with my kids, I try to be 100% present with my kids. That's not to say that there's not crossover, But I don't think it's a balance. Sometimes the kids have to take precedent, right? Sometimes work has to take precedent. It's all a shifting balance, but I totally agree, without a supportive partner, it's really hard, especially when there's little kids involved. It's very, very hard.
Did you have both kids when you started at the law firm?
Yes.
And so they were little.
They were little. So my son, Jax, was not even a year old. He was a baby. I'm lying. He was a year old. And my daughter was 3. So they were very... So
you were a very new mom.
Very new mom.
Yeah.
My, that first year associate salary went entirely to daycare, which was just like, oh, take it. But again, it was one of those things where it was a short-term sacrifice for a long-term gain. And you're not going to see the dividends for that for years. I mean, I'm seeing it now, and I still feel like I have to work really, really hard. But yeah, it was
How did you find
it was tough.
You balanced that part of it, especially being like a fairly new mom, starting a whole entire new career, and then it's like, you almost have to wonder like where the sacrifice is going to be.
Yeah,
because you have to throw yourself into this career.
100%.
You can do, like you said, 1 foot in and 1 foot out.
Yeah, I think the sacrifice was for me personally. Like, I stopped doing things for myself. I stopped taking care of myself. Not to say I was just like, whatever, just sitting on the couch and rotting, like when I wasn't working. But I wasn't taking my mental health as seriously. I was not making sure I was sleeping enough. The things that now I pull back and I say, okay, am I sleeping 7 to 8 hours a night? Am I still cooking homemade meals for my family? These are the things that I really love to do, that I really care about. That stuff definitely fell by the wayside the first year. And you can be as successful as you want to be, but if you're losing yourself in the process, what's it worth? It's the same thing. Like if my husband was like, this is not working, for us too, it wouldn't be worth it for me.
Yeah, that sacrifice isn't worth it. But
no,
I do think so. From the sounds of everything, what I love you saying and what I love hearing is, you did it for a period of time. You knew what you were sacrificing, but then you also were self-aware enough to also start to notice when you can't sacrifice too much for yourself as well, too.
Correct.
Like I did the same thing as well. I had twins, and I had them during COVID, during the global pandemic, right? And it's one of those things where you can go for a while at that pace, but then you do need to have a reality check with yourself of, okay, I need to put the life vest on first before, taking care of everyone else around you, kind of a thing. And I do think that that's something where you go back to what you said before that about you're present in the moment with whatever it is you're doing, right? We've had some conversations with people for years on our team that they would be saying, I'm going to this networking event, I'm going to that networking event, and I met this many people, and I would say to them, but what's the follow-up? Right? Because it's not quantity, it's quality.
100%.
And I think when it comes down to it, you also mentioned that you only really want to work with people you like. Well, when you get to a certain point in your career, you actually earn the right to start to turn down business if it's not the right fit. For us, we always say, too, we attract a little bit more of like the customer who is going to like us and we're going to like them, kind of a thing, which is a really beautiful gift in this business. But the other piece of it, though, is really saying to yourself and kind of having that eye-opening ability to make sure you're making these smart decisions that are going to give you more joy, fill your cup in a better way, because you're opening up space. Every time you say no to the wrong client, you're opening up space for better opportunities.
Correct.
That align more with what you want.
Yep.
And then truly you can get ahead faster.
Correct.
Right? So also being present. Everyone wants to multitask nowadays because all we do is have these like mini little computers in our pockets at all times, where you can constantly be completely sidetracked in any given moment, right? How many times have we realized like how much time we wasted scrolling on social media when we're like, oh my God, that much time just went by?
Yeah.
Like,
and it's intent. They do that on purpose.
It is.
So that you waste your time.
It's a business. It's a business, right? And they're selling us things and I'm constantly buying it. Let's be honest, right?
TikTok shop. I love it, baby.
They've got me. The hook, line, and sinker. They know what I like and I like when they give it to me. But but other than that, though, to me, I love the idea of being present in the moment. And I do think that the more you can force yourself to be present in these moments, you can actually work less and you can work truly smarter, not harder.
Correct.
And I think that is the echelon, right? You've said that a couple times. That is the upper echelon of saying, like, I've made it in my career of understanding how to get the clients I want, how to work with people I enjoy, right? And then how to also be present in the moment, whether it's being a parent or with your coworkers or with your clients, whatever it might be. You are going to get so much more out of life if you're capable of turning on those switches and shutting off the noise.
I totally agree. And it allows you to be more efficient.
Yeah.
So now, if I say to myself, I'm going to take this, sometimes Saturdays, Sundays, we're working. I'm on my computer. I'm from 10 a.m.
text messages.
or I'm answering Ashley's text messages. from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m., I'm working on my computer. That means I'm not getting my kids a snack while I'm doing that. It's, hey, you guys can wait. Like, you have to wait. But conversely, tomorrow I'm going to be a mystery reader at my son's school.
Yeah.
I have no problem saying to a client that wants to do a call, I have to take the next 45 minutes with my son. You can wait. I'm comfortable saying that. And I've actually found that people have responded very well. Like, wow, good for, that's amazing. Good for you. It's not sacrificing everything else for the sake of work.
Yeah.
But it's not sacrificing work just for the sake of kids, family, spouse. It has to be a push and a pull, especially for a working mom. It has to.
Yeah.
And I have found, and, it's going to sound a little bit cliche, but if I take care of me first, like you said, you put on your own oxygen mask first, I'm going to show up better for my children, for my husband, for my job. But if I come into work and I'm a hot mess because, I'm like, have I brushed my teeth today? I feel like I'm starting work on the back foot, as opposed to, Ashley knows I like to get up very early every day, but as opposed
Tell
to,
them what time you like to start your day.
I get up at 3:30.
Oh my God.
I know.
So you get up in the middle of the night.
That's
That's
not
the middle
early.
of the night.
I'm a try hard. So my husband wakes up exceptionally early.
Oh,
he's
yes.
Up, He's up very, very early. So I've kind of followed in that footstep. But I have learned to cherish that time for me, because if someone's bothering me at 4 o'clock in the morning, it's an emergency. I mean, it is like we're going to the hospital emergency. That is the time that I get to myself. I have a hot cup of coffee, right? It sets me up to be successful. And I know, like, people will say, oh, like, successful people wake up early in the day. I can see why. I can definitely see why a lot of people like to wake up early, because you're giving yourself time that you wouldn't otherwise have. I don't work well at nighttime. My brain, it hits 7 or 8 o'clock at night and I just turn into mush and I want to fall asleep. Learning yourself, hey, what's the time, what time of day works best for you? What time of day do you want to give back to yourself? Because we all know between 7:30 in the morning and 8 o'clock at night, real estating.
Yeah.
We have to be on our phone. We have to be answering calls, text messages, emails. I've found for me that early in the morning time allows me to just give back to myself, focus on me so I can just show up for everybody else.
Yeah, because how many times are you like, I'll work out later, and then the day goes absolutely sideways, and then you're like, I didn't work out, and then that happens day after day.
You're like, it's been 6 months. Yeah.
Literally, it's been 2 years.
Yep.
And it's like Courtney said, it's something that we talk about is like making ourselves a priority, and we talk about it every Tuesday. Did you do what you said you were going to do? And when you're like, again, didn't do it.
Yep.
It really makes you think about what you're prioritizing.
But I love you have that accountability, because a lot of people don't. It's very easy to lie to yourself. It's very easy to make excuses for you. Oh, well, I only missed 3 days last week when it was really 5. But who's holding you accountable? And going back to having a good partner, my partner holds me accountable. Like, if I say I'm going to do something, and I say for this podcast, I was very, very excited. I'm still excited to be here. But if I chickened out and I was like, I'm too nervous, he would 100% say, why would you give up an opportunity like that? You were really excited. You should push yourself, have confidence in yourself, have faith in yourself. Having a group of people or a person to hold you accountable to what you say you're going to do, that's huge. So I love that you guys do that. I think that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's also we're at a point where we know, especially with the kids and the ages that they're at, time flies by, right? So for me, I love the weekly check-in because we make annual goals, then we do quarterly goals. Like, all of a sudden a quarter is gone like that, right? Like, how quickly
we're almost
do we
to March.
Right? We look at
crazy.
every month, we're like, how did that month just go by so fast? How did that year just go by so fast?
Yes.
Your time is so precious. And I remember when I first had my kids, someone said something along the lines of like, you only have 18 summers with your kids. And I was like,
it's so
whoa, that's
sad.
the saddest thing to think about, right? Like, before they're adults and they have their own lives and they're working full time and they no longer have these like lazy, easy summers. And that to me was such a hard hitting truth.
Eye-opening.
Yes, of thinking to myself, okay, like, it's all fleeting. It's all going to go by so fast. But I'm driven. I want to have a super successful career. I want my kids to see that.
Yes.
But I also want to make sure that I'm super present as a mom as well, too. So I think that those types of things where if you're able to check yourself and really truly say, I have an hour where I can be on my computer. I loved that you said the kids will have to get their own snack, or they will have to, kind of fend for themselves, or your husband has to pick up the slack in that time.
Yep.
It helps teach your kids something there, too.
Yeah.
That you committed to a job, you committed to a career, and commitments matter too, right? So you're showing them by practice and by them actually watching and being exposed to that, you're showing them a very valuable lesson that you don't just drop everything and forgo your commitment to work because they needed something,
and
right?
you have something that's for you.
Yeah.
You have your own identity. Like my mom stayed home with us, which was great in so many ways. But I remember getting a little older and thinking to myself, like, wow, mom really needs something that's for her, something that's just for her. And for me, working and being able to show, I have a daughter, an older daughter and a younger son, especially being able to show my daughter, you can have a family and you can work and you can be happily married, and you can do a date night and you can be on your phone, emailing a client. You can do it all. It's not easy. It's very, very hard. It takes a lot of work, but you can do it all. But I think, again, like we talked about at the very, very beginning, the biggest thing is just being consistent.
Yeah.
Showing up consistently at work, but showing up consistently for your family, for your kids. Like you're not, the people that, oh, it's Monday, here we go again. It's like, no, it's Monday. Like we have a whole new week. I know that sounds annoying, and it's like I drink too much coffee, which I do, but look at it as an opportunity. It's showing up, consistency, right? Yeah. Every single week, day in and day out, and finding things. If I didn't love what I do, I wouldn't do it, because I'm an all in or I'm out type of person. Like if it's either a hell yes or it's nope, I'm out.
She's like a female version of Ryan.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the cool thing of what you're saying though is like when you are super present and you are really focused, like I kind of have a similar feeling, right? I live my weekends to the fullest with my kids. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I'm still on my computer here and there. I'm still working, getting stuff done.
Also answering text messages.
Yes.
You text a lot of people, Ashley.
I'm not feeling as special now. But it's like we live to the fullest on our weekends, but I am super excited for a Monday. And recently I'm hearing my little 6-year-olds saying to me, I can't wait to go back to kindergarten today, right? They want to go to school. And I'm excited for them because we had an awesome weekend, but we also are excited to get back to the routine too, right? So if you really do put your all into the things you're doing, I think that's what I'm hearing you say a lot too. It allows for that consistency. It allows for you to feel like you're kind of accomplishing and feeling like you have it all, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas I feel like social media and mainstream media have made that, can you really have it all, feel like it's something that's unattainable. Mm-hmm. Well, it is attainable. Yeah, but it is attainable if you're not putting too much pressure on what that looks like, right?
It can't look perfect.
Yeah, if you're consistently chipping away at the things and you're not trying to have it all in, instantaneous in the snap of a finger, then you're setting more realistic goals, more realistic ideas of what that means. Right. And that can mean that, hey, you have a nice lazy Saturday or Sunday with your family. Maybe you watch a movie instead of going and, doing some major sport or
that
something.
That can be a win too.
Yes, and that can be a really wonderful thing.
Exactly. And for me, there's no such thing as perfect. And people that say, oh, you're doing it all, you have it all. It's like, what is your definition of it all? Yeah. What is your definition of perfect? Because I could tell you some stories we're all far from that. For me, though, it's not about, do I have goals of like what I want to do in sales? Absolutely. Do I have, personal goals of certain things? Absolutely. Places I want to travel? Absolutely. But for me, what am I doing? Like you said, the years fly. Mm-hmm. So in 10 years from now, whatever my career looks like and whatever my firm looks like, that's great. But the 10 years that filled that gap, it's not about where I end up. It's like, what did I do to fill those years that have flown by? It's the day in, day out, finding little things that along the journey, like people, oh, it's the journey that matters. Like, it's just like training for a marathon. It's not actually about the day of the race. For me, the beauty in that is all of the training that leads up to it. Like when I think about making partner, in that moment, when I signed, to become a partner of the firm, it was one of the proudest moments of my life, but not because I was physically signing and I was like, I've envisioned this since I wanted to be an attorney, which is true. But it was thinking about all the blood, sweat, tears, hours in the car, like driving all over Massachusetts that got me there.
Yeah.
Finding enjoyment in the journey is huge because it makes the goal feel worth it, and you don't lose yourself along the way. You don't lose those important relationships along the way.
Yeah.
That's hugely important for me.
So that being said, tell us, what is one trait that every future partner at your firm should have, right? What do you think is like the most important thing?
Hard work.
Okay.
Hard work and consistency. I feel like I could teach my 8-year-old to do real estate, right? Through hard work. If you, two things, hard work and kindness. If you work really, really hard, I say this to my kids all the time, if you become anything, become a hard worker and become a really kind person. Because if you treat people with kindness and the person knows you're working hard, I cannot think of a scenario in which that does not work, right? Doesn't mean that the person, that associate walking into the firm is going to be the best associate we've ever had from a legal perspective. But if they work hard and they are kind, you will be successful no matter what you do. That is the groundwork, not just at my firm, but that's how I try to live my life. I work hard and I try to be a kind person. I don't want to be the type of person that people walk on eggshells. We all have that person in our life where you're like, well, what type of mood are they going to be in today? Always act from a place of kindness. That doesn't mean you're going to be happy all day, every day. That's unrealistic, but always act from a place of kindness and always, always work hard.
Good
Always.
core values.
Yes.
I love that.
Yes.
I love that. So those are definitely some core values we try to have here.
It's hard,
and
but
it's,
you gotta-
it's definitely hard.
Yes,
But yeah, no,
yes.
we definitely do. I agree with those.
Yeah.
And what would you say, right, just in all of your experience of working with all different walks of life and a lot of attorneys, a lot of real estate agents, et cetera, where do you find professionals waste the most time?
Ooh, emailing instead of calling.
Okay.
Like a 2-minute phone call.
Yeah, I think
Hours of emails.
correct. I think that there is a lot of back and forth that happens over emails that you could just pick up a call and say, "Hey, can we just talk this out?"
A lot of times emotion is misconstrued. Too,
Correct.
And it's like you think you're being sassy or whatever, but you're not. Like your tone is so different.
Correct. Or you think that your email was fine and then someone reads it and they're like, how could you say that? And you're like, well, that's not what I meant.
Yeah.
There's a quote, and I don't know who said it, so I can't give them the credit, but we judge other people by their actions and we judge ourselves by our intentions. And every time I read something that's an email that I take the wrong way, I always think like, where's this? Again, I try to be empathetic. Where's this person coming from? So for me, we all know we get stuck on a lot of emails and they're very, very long. Pick up the phone.
Yeah.
And I'll say this to our associates as well. Like if you're confused on something or you just want to talk it out with another attorney, don't waste your time going back and forth and back and forth. Pick up the phone. And it also allows you to get to know the person on the other side, right? Like now if I talk to Attorney Ashley, the next time we're on a deal together, hey, like how are you doing? You get to know them a bit of a personal level. I do think that a lot of email, it's like the meeting that could have been, an email. I think there's a lot of emails that could have been a quick phone call.
Yeah.
So I would love for more people to just jump on the phone.
Yeah.
I find too, we did a transaction recently that was unorthodox.
Interesting.
Yeah. And the seller was representing himself. No
Interesting.
agent. Yeah. I highly
Gotta love a FISBO.
Always fun. Always fun.
it was very emotional for him because he had a lot of things happening in an external life, divorce, other things happening. And I sent a text message to him asking him a question and he called and he lost it on me. And I kind of let him. And then I was like, I need you to take a breath and understand this is actually the reality. And then he was super apologetic. But if it was something that was via text, I just could have seen it escalating and being something that probably could have been a deal breaker for him because he was just so emotional and he just needed a vent.
Yes.
And my sister was in the car with me and I was like having this conversation. And after it was totally fine and we hung up, she was like, what was that?
That is a lot. Yes. Yes. It's
But I
definitely
think
true.
the point of what you said, though, is it's faster, but it also creates less drama, right?
Yes.
Because what you're
Yes.
doing is you're squashing that emotion immediately.
Correct.
Because he was taking it in a way based on what you had mentioned, how he was feeling in the moment.
Yeah.
I think you said that too. And it's one of those things where I think that that's such a really, really good nugget right there, because ultimately, like, I always think like, oh, where do we waste all our time? And I'm like scrolling on social media. Like, that's what I was thinking. But I'm like, no, that's actually a brilliant little tip right there, because if you could have just picked up the phone quickly, it doesn't allow your mind to wander. It doesn't allow you to misread an email. It doesn't allow you to overthink the email either. You're just quickly having a person-to-person conversation. They get to say their side, you say your side, and now it's actually much faster.
Exactly.
I think at times if you feel like you need it in writing, then you follow up after the conversation with something in writing.
Exactly.
Like, hey, we just discussed this.
Always put a button on it and say, as discussed, on the phone, But I do tell our younger associates, pick up the phone. Don't be intimidated. If you're going back and forth on something that it's like not a hill you want to die on, just pick up a phone and call the other attorney, call the client, have a conversation. Don't be intimidated by that. Most people are much nicer on the phone than they are in an email.
Down. Yeah.
Yes, no keyboard warriors.
Yeah. So what would you say is the best way for agents to build relationships with attorneys? Would that be it? Or?
Yes, I love that question. I think that the best agents let us do our job and we let the agents do their job. I think that there are things, I am not writing offers for people. I'm not doing market comparisons for people. If a seller starts going down a tangent of, well, I could have gotten this, hey, that's really not my lane. You should really talk to your agent. Relying on each other, right? We have, like, Ashley and I have a trust with each other. We have a bond with each other. We respect each other. Respecting the attorney enough to let them be the attorney and expect and demand that the attorney respects you enough to do your job too. So, having said that, picking up a phone and saying, hey, I saw you sent out an email about the mortgage contingency or something that's very legally nuanced. Can you explain it to me? I wouldn't have worded it that way. Asking questions, having that open line of communication, which I think takes time, but it does come from that place of mutual respect, mutual understanding, right? Being willing to say, like, I wouldn't have done it that way, or why would you say something like that? Can you explain to me where you're coming from? That's huge. But I do think that there are, lines there. Everyone has a role in the transaction. I think that a real estate attorney is like an umpire. They should be there, right? Regulating the game. But the best real estate attorneys, they're not the ones making waves. We do have to make really tough calls sometimes, right? We do have to be the bad guy that everybody hates sometimes, which is fine. That's part of our role. But, letting us do our job and then demanding that the attorney lets the agent do their job as well, because the clients. A lot of the times we don't meet them until the day of the closing. If it's a buyer, if it's a seller, I might not ever meet them. You know them. You've met their kids. You've met their dog. You've seen what color they want in their house. You know them on a more personal level. Allowing that type of relationship to happen on either end, I think, is very important.
Yeah. I think in any industry where you rely so heavily on partnerships within different industries, right? We're essentially in the same industry. However, you are in a completely different lane. None of us have passed the bar. None of us had to take our LSATs.
Don't do it. It's a trap.
Right? Like, we didn't have to take our LSATs. We took a very different licensing course than you did. So ultimately, I really appreciate and love that you said that, because I think the more you can have confidence within yourself that this is my lane. I think the people that cross over into other people's lanes in their careers, I feel like it comes from a place of not being secure enough in the value that they're offering.
Correct.
Right? I think the more confident you are as a real estate attorney or as a real estate agent or in any career out there, the more confident you are with what you provide in your service, your level of service, you are never trying to step on other people's toes when they are the expert in that area. And I think that that's ultimately the piece of also being able to have that being present in the moment type of mentality, being able to have more, being more efficient, is really be confident at being the expert at what you do. And stop trying to do other people's jobs, right?
I mean, I have people ask me about tax law, and I always say, listen, I know enough to be dangerous. You need to call an accountant. You need to call a tax attorney. I don't want to misinform you. People will ask me, I want to put my house into a trust. Can you do a trust for me? I'm not an estate attorney. I have a great referral for you. I have a really, really great person that I trust. I know is going to be responsive and really great for you. That's not my lane. To your point, like I stay in my lane. I try to know my lane and know it exceptionally well because I'm confident in what I do. But I definitely try, again, you may not have passed the bar, But you are an expert in your industry. You know what you're doing in your role much better than I do in my role. And having that mutual respect there is huge.
Okay. So for anyone who wants to be able to have mutual respect, work with you, learn more about
fun,
you,
laugh.
yeah, get to know you better, what's the best way that they can connect with you?
Yeah, and they can email me, ntorres, Torres, at camielaw.com, CAMIELLAW.com. They can call me. They can go to our website.
You do prefer calls.
I do
so
prefer
we'll
calls.
throw that out there.
Yes, that's perfect. I have an Instagram. I don't know who finds a real estate attorney on Instagram, but people do. I'm always surprised by that. Yes, exactly. So come and find me.
Awesome. Well, we'll put all your contact info in the show notes, and we can't thank you enough for coming. This was such a good conversation.
Thank
I
you
could
for having
still
me.
talk to you for another 30, 45 minutes.
I'll come back.
I have so many more questions, but for the sake of this one, I think that we learned a lot of how to fast track a career and be hungry, open to learning, while also being kind, right?
Yes.
So thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.